Hello everyone, in this video I will explain how to replace the starter motor on 2009 to 2017 Chevrolet Traverse Sport utility vehicles. Step number 1. Park the vehicle on a flat surface, set the emergency brake and place blocks in front and behind the rear wheels for added safety. To have better access when performing this repair, raise the front part of the vehicle using a hydraulic jack and place jack stands under the chassis for safety. 2. Open the passenger rear door, slide the rear seat all the way back and remove the cover shown on the screen by pulling it up with your hand. 3. Remove the screw from the battery access cover using a number 3 Torx screwdriver and remove the cover completely by pulling it up with your hand. 4. Next, loosen the nut that holds the negative battery terminal with a ratchet and a 10mm socket and proceed to disconnect the negative battery cable. 5. Place a wooden block over the hydraulic jack and place the jack under the engine oil pan and apply light pressure with the jack. This will help to support the engine. 6. Next, remove the upper front engine support nut using a ratchet, a long extension and an 18mm socket. 7. Remove the lower nut from the front engine support with a ratchet or impact tool and an 18mm socket. 8. Next, remove the 4 bolts that hold the engine support bracket using a ratchet and a 15mm socket. 9. Remove the bracket and the engine mount by disassembling them and pulling them down by hand as shown in the image. 10. Next, disconnect the knock sensor electrical connector by pressing on the plastic tab and pulling it outwards simultaneously. 11. Remove the bolt that fastens the knock sensor with a ratchet and a 13mm socket. Once the bolt has been removed, proceed to remove the knock sensor from the engine. 12. To have better access to the cables that are connected to the starter motor, remove the 2 bolts that fasten the starter shown in the image using a ratchet and a 15mm socket. Once the bolts have been removed, slide the starter back in such a way that it is not suspended from the cables. 13. Disconnect the starter solenoid electrical connector by pressing inward on the plastic tab and simultaneously pulling the connector away from the solenoid. 14. Remove the nut that fastens the positive battery cable to the starter using a ratchet and a 13mm socket. Once the nut has been removed, disconnect the positive battery cable from the starter and proceed to remove the defective starter motor from the vehicle. 15. Place the defective and the new starter motor on a workbench and proceed to transfer the protective heat shield from the defective starter to the new one. Remove the bolt using a ratchet and an 8mm socket. Note, once the heat shield has been transferred to the new starter, tighten the bolt to the specs listed in your owner's manual. Install the new starter back on the engine and proceed to connect the cables back on and install the remaining components in the reverse order they were removed, ensuring that all bolts and nuts are tightened to the specs listed in your owner's manual. 16. Connect the negative battery cable back on and start the engine to ensure that the new starter motor works correctly and there are no abnormal noises present. 17. If the starter works correctly and there are no abnormal noises present, turn the engine off and proceed to install the battery cover and floor access cover back on. 18. Lower the vehicle to the ground and congratulate yourself for having performed a successful repair and for saving money at the same time. Have a wonderful day, handsome.